Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hot Rods and Hand Grenades podcast, hosted by Explosive Customs. Today's guest, Jerry Winter, Black Sheep Studios, out of Southern Illinois. He just showed up with a delivery for us. We've got these badass rolling chairs, office chairs. Now they're podcast chairs. They might not really give you guys the whole understanding of what went into these things over camera, but there's a lot of hours in each chair here, and rough guess, what do you think you were at on all four of these?
See, these I did together. Normally when I do a single one, it's close to 40 hours.
So we got four chairs here.
Yeah.
40
I
hours apiece.
started these four chairs after I did the chair for the Veterans Home.
Oh yeah, okay.
So that was,
there you go.
That was June.
Here we are. It's the 5th, 6th.
Yeah, so every night after work, and because I got a day job, every night after work, and then my free time on the weekends, and a lot of the weekend goes to, the studio stuff.
Not an easy feat at all doing these chairs.
But there's a lot of bouncing back and forth.
True.
One chair to another piece, so it's hard to keep it.
Some artwork here and there.
Yeah, I've never clocked in and clocked out. That's something I really want to do. And the worst thing I could have possibly done, I did last week, and that was I put a fresh battery in the clock. And instead of looking at my phone, because my phone's always playing music or podcasts or video, and I got earbuds in.
Yeah.
So I'm never looking at it. And every goal I set for myself, I didn't hit. I'm like, I'll be done at 2. I'll be done at, 12. And here it is 12:15 or 1 o'clock or 1:30. I tell myself if I set goals, I'm not going to make it. Because then you have that pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
And you screw up, you forget something. So you just do what you used to do and put music on and jamming out work.
Sometimes that's the best, though. You get lost in the work before you realize at the times, it's been 2 more hours than you thought, or you spend all day in something, and that's when you know you got a passion for it, too, because a lot of people sit there and watch the clock at work and don't get anything done because they're more worried about how long they've been there.
Like my day job, I think about my night job.
Yeah.
Which used to be my day job until just a couple of years ago. It just got too hard to manage the struggle of it, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
This stuff ain't easy. You and me talk about it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to build a name, and there's, just like you and the craftsmanship that you're capable of. There's so many small shops across the country, included, that do phenomenal work. They got a great crew. Sometimes it's one guy, sometimes it's 5 or 6, and they earn a living. Might not be huge money. Nobody's rolling around in Ferraris and Lamborghinis, but they are craftsmen at what they do. And
when I first started making these, I kept probably the 4th or 5th set I did, and one of them's sitting on top of the press, the other one's sitting on the shelf with the intake for the satellite in it. And I look up at them all the time, and I think oh my God, what pieces of shit these were, right?
Good to look back at where you came from.
Yeah, but before I started learning shortcuts and, making some dies, because the hems are hand done for the most part. I do use the 3-step from Mittler Brothers, but it's to do the inside where it goes down, that's all hand done.
Okay.
So I made dies for it, and it's easier to do it that way than it is to try and fight the compounds. But when I was first doing them and adding everything up, it was like $3.75 an hour I was making to do them, which is completely ridiculous.
There's a decimal point after the
Yeah,
three there.
like
just to
$3.75 an hour profit I was making off of these, and they're cool. I've been in love with these since I saw an article in Street Router magazine about them, a guy out west that was making them, and then I saw a lack of them on the Ham, which was the hokey ass message board forum that's still going strong, and started putting them on, and we started evolving from there to where I can get better quality in a faster time now, just because I have an idea of each seat. I make them the way I want, which is the easiest way to do it. Like in true artist fashion, I hate commission work because it sets expectations. Yeah. That sounds weird. Like it's just like painting a car. Somebody says, "Oh, we want this done like this," or "We want this done like this." People are going to pick out the flaws because they have it set in their head of how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
You know, brush strokes don't match, or fade doesn't match the way they wanted it, or you know, they saw it in a magazine a certain way, and it's the light that played the trick on the fade job.
See, but I hate doing stuff like that because I don't want to do somebody else's
work.
work.
You're just copying somebody else's
someone
stuff.
Else's job.
Yeah.
I'd rather, any of the artwork that we've done on cars or, raffle items or any of the stuff like Gun Safe that we did here. I mean, that was all Christian's vision there. And then, we're kind of, I don't know, I've been on this huge leaf kick lately. So I just kind of I had to get some leaf on it. And he's like, all right, let's find a spot to do it. So we just started doing that.
Yeah.
But
this episode of the Hot Rods and Hand Grenades podcast is sponsored by Black Sheep Studio. Black Sheep Studio is a family-owned fab shop specializing in handcrafted metal art and custom fabrication. A top seller for them is their aircraft-inspired aluminum bomber seats. Whether you want artwork for your wall or mantle, seats for your hot rod, or hand-riveted office chairs, just like the ones we have right here on our podcast, Black Sheep Studio is the place to call. They ship anywhere in the country, and every order is handmade just for you. To learn more or to place an order, contact Black Sheep Studio LLC on Facebook or click the link in the description below. And always remember to support small business and the arts. Now let's get back to it.
So generally the seats are 18 inches because that's what'll fit comfortably in a Model A. And then I fit comfortable, 6'3", 250, I can fit comfortably in one. For the office ones, we do 19 inches. I make how I want the designs to be, how intricate. I've done more. My goal has been 500 rivets without being BS. I'm not going to put rivets in there just to put rivets to hit a goal.
Yeah.
And I think I'm 480 something was the last one for the Project Headspace seat.
Okay.
That was the most I've done. And I didn't even count how many are in here, so I'm going to have to count beforehand. I just lay them out and start going and see what works. But yeah, there's a lot of things that we do that nobody else does. They've got a contour in the back. They've got a lean back. They're not 90 degrees. You could sit in them without a seat pad. I've never put a seat pad in there because I'm not an upholsterer. It's hard to find somebody religiously to do upholstery in them with everybody that I reached out to. I've thought about doing it myself. I don't want to add that much more to it. So it's comfortable enough when you're in a car that, you can maybe put a little cushion if you want for a long run. But in the long run, total finished product, I'd love to see them with seat pads in them. And a couple more changes. I tweak every single one. Like I said, the first ones look like dog shit compared to where we're at now.
Well, there you go. The 4 or 5 of you that may semi-religiously listen to our little show here, if you know anybody interested in doing some seat pads for some production chairs, it's low production, isn't to a ton of them. Reach out. Let us know. Let him know. and we'll put his links for his social media and everything in the description for all this. I'll make sure all the social media we tag you on it, so people will be able to get hold of you.
Yeah, it's like 10 this year, I think.
You've
So,
done 10 this year?
Yeah, I think about that. So 10 in a
Between
year,
just
maybe.
standard bomber seats and office chairs, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
How many other people are doing office chairs?
I don't know. To be honest with you,
Because I remember when you were talking to me about doing one.
well, I did a set of seats, and then my son's interested in aviation and bombers and aircraft and stuff, which is what inspired it. And for his birthday, he's like, trying to ask. At this point, I think he was 12 or something. What do you want? He's like, I don't know, just surprise me. So I did.
That's awesome.
I made him the seat, and I was sitting there thinking like something I could make. He's got a bunch of bombers and planes in his room, and pictures of B-24s and stuff. So I made him the seat to do his homework and everything in and sit in, and it went from there. And then Project Headspace started doing the show. Guido was doing it, so I told him that I'd make one for it, and it started every year I make one for that. And it just started taking off from there. That people like them. It's something different.
It is, and especially I guess it doesn't really matter. You could probably do any number of things with these, but to any gearhead or any
Right.
aviation buff, these are perfect for an office. They're perfect
Yeah.
for a bar. They're perfect for
Anything.
anything. Podcast studio. These
See,
work
the hard
great
thing
for
is
this.
like multiple ones. Like people are like, oh, you got to reach out. The gambling, places will buy them for there, but
It'd be hard to do 200 or 300 of them though.
yeah, that's the thing. It's like I'm a one-man show.
Yeah.
So plus I like to keep. I don't want to make a ton of them and have them all be the same. I like everyone being different because
Yeah, and these are
know.
different than the one that you did for the event.
Yeah.
So
So like I like to make it how I want to make it, and then if somebody says I want it like this, I can make a little tweak to it and still have my artistic ability for it. And there's no standard seat that I'm making. It's just my interpretation of like a bomber seat that's comfortable, that's practical, that doesn't take a million hours to make. That every hole is laid out by hand. I do cheat and use a layout template. In the aircraft industry, you can get 20 at a time, but there's over 20 rivets on certain sides, and there's compounds and radiuses, so there's tricks to making sure that everything stays laid out equal. Every hole is laid out, and every hole is punched by hand. And where I can't get the punch into, of course, we'll drill. But I don't like doing that because the drill walks and a punch won't. So everyone's laid out on a scribe line, equal distance, center punched. Then I come through with a roper punch, and punch with a roper punch, and then a cleco goes into it, and then a drill bit. So it's a 5/32, like in these, it's 5/32 rivets, but the rivet itself is actually like 1.59, so it's larger than 5/32. So then you have to go through and drill every hole. And then you can't pull 5 of them out at once, because if you pulled all 5 of them out at once and did your first hole, each one would be different because it's pulling different. And as you're drilling your hole, it's shifting the metal and it walks. So it's a very time-consuming process. I still love the hell out of doing it. There's not a lot of people that do it, and my favorite time period is the late 40s. I'm real big into Bonneville and land speed racing, and I've ran Bonneville. I've done East Coast Timing Association when it was in Ohio, and that post-war hot rod Army surplus, military surplus stuff, hydraulic tanks and oxygen tanks and seats and belly tankers. I mean, it's just badass. It's like the perfect thing.
The obviously we're into all of this. I mean, you're way more well versed in that period of hot rodding. but it's awesome to see that you're putting your own twist on something that was, I mean, these were engineered just to give somebody a spot to sit and, get them from A to B. And it was just military surplus stuff. And, now you're able to create your own. They're unique, handcrafted, hand bead rolled, hand hemmed, hand riveted, everything about them. And pays a tribute to, that time period.
Yeah.
But it's cool putting your own twist on them. And, certainly you're using a little more technology now than what they were originally building them with, to an extent. I mean, the tools are nicer now, but it's still hand done, and it's still.
I call it selling out. For Father's Day, I got a Milwaukee angle grinder, which is very nice to go ahead and take some stuff down. And then I went out and bought the Milwaukee 332nd DA, and I'm telling you, anybody in the world, comes with a hook and loop, and it comes with a sticky pad. And I use your method for hook and loop because you're not always going to use the whole thing. You can have some used hook and loops, and like a 400 could be a 1000 if you want to turn around a wet sand later.
You can come back to that piece a year later, and it'll still stick, which is nice.
And so I use that, and that was a game changer. Like, I'm not using the compressor. I can save the compressor because, I've only got one compressor.
Yeah.
And if I'm sanding the hell out of stuff, then I got to go sandblast it. I mean, my compressor's saying, just shoot me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it's a silent compressor, so you're paying a lot of money for it anyway. And I work all different hours. I mean, I've been up till 4 o'clock doing seats because I got to do it when I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you get in the zone and you're just freight training along because you want to just keep going. But for the most part, like I had on the Facebook page, and I don't do a lot of social media because one, it's so time consuming, and two, there's so many people that just, they see it, they don't acknowledge it. I mean, that's the hardest part. It's like a kick below the belt when they're like, oh yeah, I saw it. And you're like, oh, well, thanks for hitting the thumbs up button. It would have really helped.
Or one quick share for
me. Yeah, it would have really helped it. But I bought a Milwaukee band file, they call it, and it's basically a little 3/4 inch, half-inch belt sander. And I was like, I wonder how this is going to work on it. It sucked.
Yeah.
So all the radiuses are done with the Vixen file because it's just easier to use a hand file. It's what I'm used to. Yeah. I'm not going to overshoot it. I'm not going to screw it up. I'm not going to put too much heat or warp into it because it's thin aluminum. It's 050 and 062 on it. And, you can warp that stuff blasting it.
Yeah.
And for the most part, most of it is still handmade the same way that they would back in the day. It's the same sort of aircraft riveting. I use a 3X gun. Same sets. Bucking's the same. So I just sit here and think, like, people will sit there and go, oh my God, that's a lot of rivets. That's a lot of rivets. Imagine doing that all day long in a bomber plant.
Yeah.
And how loud it is when you got all those people around you riveting.
Machinery was much louder. It made a lot more noise back then.
You didn't have, you're in a hollow shell too.
Yep.
You're in a hollow shell. You're just assembling a plane. Somebody's on the outside. Yeah. Somebody's on the inside. Hit it again. It's like when we did, the school bus. One of us is on the roof. One of us is inside. Yep. Hit it. And those are 1/4 inch. I mean, that's insane to sit there and think that somebody did this for so long. I mean, I can tell you how my hands feel after doing it for 4 or 5 days straight when you're in the zone making it. It's just a respect to a different time period. Something that it's like everybody else, you hear it on every podcast that you have. It's the kids, the future generation, and it's something like that. My son's now at the point where my oldest is wanting to come out and see it. And then my youngest son is getting it too. Every year for 4-H, they do a metal project. My son has done the same exact metal project every year, only trying to one-up himself slightly to show a little more growth. And then my youngest son is starting to do the same pattern where he wants to do the same project every year, just a different version of it.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, he was out in the backyard one day and he came in and asked, can we make a star? I started out making nautical stars.
You had a full-on Hank Hill moment there. You're like, do you know how long I've waited for you to ask me that?
And he ended up giving it to his teacher.
That's awesome.
And he hung it on the wall in his bedroom. And just like, I'll never forget that moment of him stepping back when I hung it up. And he's just like looking at it like, he made that.
Yeah.
And then he asked if he can give it to his teacher. I was like, it's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You know? Yeah. The kids wanting to do it and wanting to get into cars. And, I mean, they're around mechanical stuff. My son ran quarter midgets for years. You know, they're getting into junior dragsters. But as they start getting older and you have to compete with soccer and band and, you know, every other activity, shooting sports that they're in for school and gymnastics, and you're trying to keep that in there. So it's like, you know, just hopping in a car and going and getting ice cream or going to a car show, it's not the same as making something on that car as you're going to go. You know, that's sort of how we came up, and I want them to have that too.
Well, and I guess some more on that. For those that don't know, Jerry also happens to be my uncle.
Yeah, I've known you for a long time.
He's ancient. He's got a whopping 10 years on me.
Yep, I can remember 11:54. Chicago Bears were getting ready to play. We had just got back from camp, and I remember Dad. I always say I don't know why this is so ingrained, but I can remember him picking up the phone. And back then, the phone used to be attached to the wall with like a 12-inch cord. You know, him picking it up, being so excited. Oh yeah, man! And then from there, it was pure hell of uncle stuff.
Oh yeah, yep, plenty of torture. All four of you guys.
Yeah, there's four of us to torture you, putting you in a laundry basket.
Locking me in the crawl space.
I don't remember that. I mean, I remember
Maybe
the
you weren't
good
there for
stuff,
that
like
one, but
putting you in a laundry basket with pillows all around you and belts as a seatbelt and pushing you down the stairs.
that was a blast. I can still remember that.
But like sliding down, not just
Yeah, this wasn't like just
go
see
meet
who can hurt Nick.
go meet Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, hold your head straight, kid.
No, that was fun. I remember your RC track.
Yeah, we had
That
an
was in the
RC
crawl
track.
space.
Yeah,
I
we had
remember
that in the
racing
crawl
with you down
space.
there. That was cool.
We took the plastic for landscaping for like the whole rocks in, and
That was like the coolest kid hangout on the planet.
yeah, because nobody went down there.
Well, yeah.
And then just all sorts of stuff growing up, you know. That's the same thing, like, you know, your dad was just on. I remember when they were in New Lenox on Briggs Street, you know, the shop there and then the shop behind the house in Oak Lawn, and you know, he didn't mention the 57 in detail, but I remember the 57 and the Scrambler and the 69 AMX, and just going over there spending the weekend, and you know, he'd be painting something or working on something. He had the boat for a while.
Yep.
So it's just like he was talking about mentors, and there's so many of them that you don't even realize until you start trying to make a list of all the people that as you were coming up, and then as you are an adult, and then you start looking back, and some of them teach you, and then you become an equal, and then like the greatest honor is when they ask you your opinion on something, or they ask you to help.
Yeah.
You know, like if you were welding for this guy, I went to school for welding for the longest time and did a ton of it. If they would come and say, you know, hey, can you weld this for me? Well, yeah, I can do that for you, man.
Yeah.
You know, they may be good at this, but you know, you're putting a cage in. I've worked at a lot of shops. Putting a cage in, you got to be a freaking contortionist. You know, building a front engine car, there's certain ways you want to do it where you don't want the frames to pull, even though it's in a jig. So you got to weld everything like a mirror. You know, you weld this side, you go back, you weld this side. You can't just do one and then the other. It's not going to work out like that.
I can think of one huge mentor and influence to you who's no longer with us.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had the pleasure of being able to pick up on quite a bit from him later on, and tried to spend as much time as I could either talking to him on the phone or swinging out to the house and, checking things out. But I feel like a lot of your interest in that era of hot rodding, I feel like a lot of that came from Bob.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Bob. Bob had a shop in Phoenix, and then he ended up moving back to Illinois, Griffith, Indiana. Had a 29 Ford that my brother has, square cab, badass rake on it. And that car went back and forth from Arizona to Illinois multiple times. I've got his 51 Chevy. It used to be a 2-ton hauler, and it's now got a 58 bed on it. It's a small block with a 4-speed transmission, 3-speed Browning gearbox, and a 2-speed rear end. So, I mean, you could shift all day if you want. And then I got his last project, which was the Model A that was sitting at his place. But you'd go into his place, I mean, there'd be V860s laying on the ground and, just flatheads all over the place. And he was a big fan of more doors. Everything was a 4-door this or 4, just because they were cheap, plentiful, and nobody wanted them.
Yep.
And now look at them. I saw a 50 Ford 4-door. I picked my first one up, the cat box, from 15th and Cicero for $500. I picked another one up in Southern Illinois about this time last year for $600 for parts. The only thing that they did was sell the hood and take the fender and the rear end out of it. They took the center section out. $600.
Yeah.
It was stripped, and everything was put in tins with the metal off the lid, and they took the heads off the engine. It had no hood, so the engine is ruined, and all the spare parts, it's like a nickel and dime card. It'll kill you to build it back up.
Yeah.
But it's got a solid shell. Now you're seeing them, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, and they're project cars, no engines in them.
Yep.
Just because where the market's going. But yeah, Bob, he was an old school guy. He was friends with Moon and, from all his time out west, and friends with all those guys, and just built so many cool things, had so much knowledge in his head. And it's one of those things that, guys today can do it for years and not have that sort of knowledge. And it was a simplistic approach. There was nothing high tech. Nothing high tech. When we first started really learning from him, we were torch welding with coat hangers, and non-pressurized radiator, like a low radiator, like a Model T, Model A radiator, just practicing welding on that around the filler neck and stuff with a torch, learning essentially how to braze. But it was the cheapest way to go about it. It's like now there's an appreciation for watching some dude in Denmark build a car in a Connex trailer with a 4.5-inch grinder and a little 110 MIG welder, and they're chopping cars and building cars. I mean, sort of like the way it was back in the alley.
Yeah.
And they turn out great. The quality isn't there like you would expect from a full-on shop build, but they're doing it in their backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many guys out there. There's so many companies where you can get stuff from. And there's tons of videos. My son follows this kid that's about the same age as him, and I think it's a Ranchero or El Camino that he's building. He's on the social medias, and it's cool to see it. It's simplistic. Still working. I love working metal with a hammer and a shop bag. Yeah. And then shaping it and plenishing it out, and just making something, instead of buying it. Most of the stuff you buy comes from overseas, and it's junk anyway. It doesn't fit.
You end up spending more time trying to make it fit than some of the things you could have just made on your own.
Yeah. Like for the Ford, I got a bunch of parts from Bradley. He's no longer in business, but he's like Brookville. He had original dies. Mm-hmm. So you had to wait. I think I waited 2 or 3 years for the dies to be stamped out because he needed X amount to run it. But in that 2 to 3 years, I was impatient. I was still waiting for his. I think I maybe ordered 3 or 4 parts from other vendors, and none of them fit. And it's something that I'm incapable of doing, because, everybody can't do everything. And I don't have the equipment to do it. I've only got a 5-foot brake, and I need longer than that. And then, sometimes you just got to farm it out. But you would wish it'd be a little better.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay $200 for something and then have to put 20 hours in to get it fit. Cut it, relieve it, re-weld it, shape it. Just then it's all weak as it is.
Yep. So the chairs, obviously, this is present day.
Yeah.
This is where you're at with your passion for this.
This is just one side of it.
Yeah.
So, like the logo of the shop, took forever to find somebody to do it. And when I was doing it, I was like, my one thing was I didn't want to pigeonhole us into any one thing. Mm-hmm. Somebody from church gave me like 40 pounds of horseshoes. So I sat there and did metal art with the horseshoes. Mm-hmm. Hangers and coat racks and stars and crosses. Just whatever pops in my head. It's fabrication, it's metal art, and it's not just one anything. I built a bike. That bike is now supposedly over in Poland. It was an 80 FLHS. You did the paint on it. Mm-hmm. So I like to try and do a car or a bike every year and a half. And nothing crazy. Less than full builds. Not everybody has the ability to do the sheet metal work. Not everybody has the ability to shape it. So if you can get a car, replace cut the cancer out of it, make it some solid metal, let somebody else paint it and put the engine in it. As long as you have the seat frames, so, they can send that out to have somebody else do the interior while you're doing the work. All these old cars, the glass is flat. You can have the glass cut anywhere. So it's a cheap way for somebody to avoid the $100+ an hour, to have somebody do it for them, plus the waiting to have it do it. They can keep working on it. So that's a good thing, is less than full builds. Stars, still do stars, do wall art for people. A lot of it does have the influence of the aviation, the rivets, just because they're so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, the rivets it's unique.
Yeah.
They attract the eyes.
Yeah.
You see, even all your progress photos on anytime you're doing any artwork or these chairs or seats or anything like that you're doing, and you send me pictures with all the Clecos and everything,
Oh, yeah.
You've got more Clecos than most places will stock at any given time. And you probably got more rivets than any place will stock at any given time, too.
Yeah, it takes a lot of... I get all my rivets exclusively from Wix Aircraft, and there's a lot of times I'll run them out of that size that I use. One of the coolest things I did was a boat, and I did a shooting platform on a boat. It's just to have all the Clecos standing in line and sitting there just staring at it. Yeah. Having all those Clecos lined up. And a lot of people don't understand what they are. I need to do some videos because people still question about, they think it's spot welded. How do you get all the spot welds so even? Well, they're not spot welds, they're rivets. And I'm still going to change the way I rivet them because I want to start doing some flat rivets. So I want to try one of those, a seat with flat rivets in it, and see what that's like.
Well, we'll come down and we'll do some video work on something. We'll do even some artwork panels or something like that, and try to cover some of the ins and outs of what it takes to even make something small.
There's a lot of there's a formula that goes into it. You want to make sure that what you're riveting, there's a math. Mm-hmm. What size rivet you need based off of what your thickest material is, and then you want your tail, based off of how many pieces you have together, and then your squish, how much is going to be left out when everything's said and done.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of that when we did that bus here.
Yeah.
And, we were cutting a whole lot of rivets.
Yeah, because when you get rivets those size, they only come in one size, and you sit there with a rivet cutter, and then it's just like working, you're like Stallone and Over the Top. You're just sitting there squeezing all day, working on your forearm. Yep. So it sort of sucks.
We had almost as much time in cutting rivets to length as we did in hammering rivets in. So it was...
That's the thing, it's like... if you want to play the game, that's how it is. And certain rivets come in certain sizes, and in some instances, because it's not super structural, it's not flying through the air, you can get away with it, if it's a couple inches off. But if this was an airplane, they'd be coming through with a gauge, and they're like, oh, you need to cut this rivet out. I just had to cut out over 20 rivets the other day, and it took me, an hour and a half. It sucked. It sucked. Because, one, you're not trying to destroy what you're working on. You don't want to keep putting the heat into it, warping it. And you want to keep it pretty. So I couldn't imagine screwing up something on a plane and having to, go through and cut all those rivets out. But, man.
Yeah, it would be fun.
No. And it was on me. Like, I looked at the seat and didn't put the piece in that I was supposed to put in. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, and it's crazy because it was just 50,000s. But when you've done a bunch of them and they're set up somewhat the same way, I was like, man, I can't figure out why this set, like what's hitting the rivets a set. And then you got your Cleco, it wouldn't clear it. So it was hitting the rivet a little and leaving a smile on it. Like, something's wrong with this. Huh. Well, maybe it's my air pressure. Oh, yeah, okay. Just the air pressure. No, it wasn't that. Keep trupping, keep going, dummy. And I walked away. And what it is my Amazon Music, I think I got like 4 days worth of music. I was like, man, I've heard the same songs. I got to change it up. And I went and grabbed my phone and I looked over at it and I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Like, how could you be so dumb to do something? But you just get in the zone.
Yeah.
Like, the comment, my comment to myself was, good job, dummy. See a hole, put a rivet in it. So there'll be times where I'll put tape over a certain set of holes that I don't need to rivet because it's for later in the process, and make sure that I don't do that.
So you mentioned your interest in Bonneville.
Yeah.
And being there, and
it's the coolest place on earth, man. I'm telling you.
First off, what got you into it? And then let's talk a little bit about that bike.
So what got me into it was the fact that it hasn't changed. It hasn't. It's Bonneville. It's dying. It's dying faster than it should be dying because of the mining underneath. I mean, you can go to savethesalt.org and learn more about it than I can tell you in a more direct manner. But, I mean, they've been setting records out there for a long, long time. Fastest place on earth, you can see the curvature. It's not an acceleration contest. It's a repetitive top-end contest.
Yep.
They call
and
it,
there's a lot to setting a record.
Oh, there's more people have climbed Mount Everest than are in a 200-mile-an-hour club. So I have 3 goals in my life. I want to be holding my wife's hand when either one of us die, because that means we completed our vows till death do us part. I want to shake both my boys' hands on their wedding day, and I want to walk my daughters down the aisle, and that's if they decide to get married. And I want to be in the 200-mile-an-hour club. And guys chase fractions of a mile an hour, and it's just intense. There's so many variables that go into it, and it's aerodynamics, engineering, and horsepower. Mm-hmm. And I got to go out there on my Harley. Originally, it was supposed to be a Triumph with a Judson supercharger on it. I built the frame. I used to work at Hot Rod Chassis and Cycle in Addison when it was open for Kevin and Chad. Chad did the logo for my shop. He's, incredible aviation artist and just a design all-around guy. And Kevin was real big into GOW, vintage horsepower and tradition, and it was just, when you chop the top there was one little 110 buzz box in that shop. Everything was TIG welded. Yeah. Just the craftsmanship and the simplicity and tradition of it. But he had put a hardtail on a Triumph and ended up just sat in the corner of the shop, So I ended up buying a project off of them with the intention of it going to Bonneville.
Mm-hmm.
And I extended everything, had it fit. Life's the way life is. I want to say it was probably around the same time as '08 when like the world was falling apart. And when I started to get back into it, I didn't bend or fit the bike like I used to. Like I literally couldn't bend the way I used to the years prior. So I ended up selling it. But I wanted to go bad. So I had a shovel head. Me and the shovel head have been through hell together. This is my first Harley. It's an 81 FXE. I've drag raced it, street, strip, everything. Road trips. I drive 300 miles to go get lunch by myself just to go out. It's
with
had
18-inch ape hangers and suicide shift.
Ape hangers. It's had ape hangers. It's had a jockey shift, foot clutch. It's been everything from like a West Coast custom to like a West Coast lane splitter, high speed, low drag. I had a road tank that would hold like 4 gallons in it, besides the regular tank for if I was going far. I had it pinstriped. Everything matched.
Yep.
Like both tanks were the same paint job, sort of same pinstriping on it. But yeah, started running East Coast Titan Association with it, and then I was running. After the 100-car pileup, they had the 100-car drags and then the meltdown drags. It was like the 2 series.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing that, and then I decided to take it to Bonneville. And this bike was reliable. No matter what I threw at it, every year, my goal was to blow this bike up, and I could never do it. And at the time, I was working on and off, full-time, part-time at Throttle Masters, a bike shop in Chicago. And Bill Miley was the engine builder. And this guy was another one like Feeney. He was just incredible. Been doing it all of his life. All the secrets, all the different things. And he was doing the engines and stuff. And we had taken it to Bonneville. I had just set a record at Ohio. And I made one pass, and it was like running through snow. The bike was hauling ass, and I hit a wet part, just a loose part, and it just spun the tire and bogged it down. And you can't get that speed back when you're on the short course. And I think I ended up trapping it at like 110, I think, 115, 110, maybe it was 105 on the first pass. And then I was on a land speed forum, and there was some people looking for racing teams. They wanted like low budget people, long hauling it there. East of the Mississippi, there's not a lot of people that are running Bonneville. You go out there, a lot of people are broke by the weekend just because of the nature of the beast. They'll run Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then from then on, that's when the fast guys are running, and it's a lot less people there. But I agreed to be in this show called Land Speed Heroes. So they were doing somebody else on Saturday and Sunday, and we didn't run Saturday or Sunday anyway. We ended up getting out there Saturday so we can go to the car show at the casinos, but also tech the bike in, not have to stay in line forever, and just walk around, see people. It's all sorts of cool things there. It's a horsepower and a hot rod heaven, especially for traditional stuff. And nonetheless, these guys get with me on Monday, and you do the intro, the talking, this and that. I make one run, and I shifted into third gear, and it just shit the bed. Like, I didn't understand what happened. It died. It just flat out died like I never felt a bike die before. And it just grenaded the piston. And I had the bike geared. Geared. Third gear was still 100 miles an hour. And trying to get it up to, my goal was like 130. I had a company cut me some custom gears, and then with Miley, we changed some stuff in the primary and transmission sprockets and stuff. And there's some tricks like you can run a different size gear. If you had a worn out chain that was stretched, that would give you some. So I sat there and went through like the used chain stuff, trying to get it, everything figured out, but it just disintegrated that piston, and that was that.
What do you think? Just more load than it could handle, or just it had enough?
They told me that the bottom end wasn't balanced right, but the way that we
is there
balanced,
a shovel head that is balanced right?
no, because they're all static balanced.
Exactly.
So we ended up, for a while, I hooked up with the guys at S&S and got some more tricks, and we went with some later flywheels. You can balance those a little better, and eventually it'll go back out there. My goal is, right now we're working on a car to take out there. I want to shake it down in Arkansas at the East Coast Time Association, and then have the boy run it at Bonneville.
Awesome.
Just because, he wants to go out there too. And I mean, we can both do it, but right now there's such a size difference. You set the car up, you might as well set the car up for one person, and let him go out and make his runs, and then you just sit back and watch and be jealous.
Passing it on to the next generation.
Doing my best. It's hard. It's funny because I was in your previous episode, you were talking about no matter what it is, my brother Jeff was real big into imports, and people are always, we'd go to Duke's Drive-In, people are always like, oh, those cars don't belong here, blah 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 blah. Why not? It's a custom. Like putting an Acura Integra Type R motor in a Honda Del Sol is no different than putting a 350 in an S10.
No, exactly.
Like, you can't get anywhere in there. It's taking up every bit of real estate that it can, and you're
those guys don't want to hear it, but that little car would have outran that little S10.
Oh, hell yeah.
It probably would have outran more than half of what was sitting in that parking lot.
Look at, all these, you're putting high horsepower in, and it's like putting a motorcycle engine on a go-kart.
Yep.
Easiest way to say it. But what people used to hate 20, 25 years ago, they would love to see it now.
Yeah.
Just somebody doing anything, making a custom. And that goes back to the comment about the guys just sitting there making a car out of whatever they can with what they have. I mean, I cringe at it. Everybody always says like the bad Chad hack style and stuff, but I mean, it's getting done.
It is. And even at the same time, you know what? He openly says he does things differently than everybody else, but it's his style. It's how he's been building his whole life.
Yep.
And he's got a name for it, and it works.
Yeah.
And he doesn't build customer cars anymore. He's only building for himself.
Yeah.
He's making YouTube content. He's making a living for himself. He's feeding his wife. He's feeding himself.
Yeah.
And he's doing better than half of us.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard to knock that. But then again, at the same time, I could see, there's always this drive to do better. So you always want to one-up yourself. And you always want to, if I get this equipment, I can learn this. If I get this, I can learn that. And so you always want to top what you did last time. But I can't knock anything about what he's doing because it doesn't affect me.
Right.
And he's earning a living.
See, like the whole mantra of that, like, there's nothing more dangerous than somebody watching a YouTube video and going out and doing it, right? Like welding. It's more than just gluing metal together.
Yeah.
I had welded for years before I went to school. And I remember the first time I was in school, my instructor going, and he was the head of the department, he goes, I welded it for him. And he goes, yeah, you're not a welder, you're a bead roller. Or you're a bead layer. I'm sitting here like, dude, I've welded tons of shit. And he starts asking me questions.
Metallurgy.
Yeah. And I'm like, 4130? Yeah. 4130? He's like, what have you welded? 4130. Like, he's like, yeah, no. So yeah, I started bare rod on a piece of scrap metal, shielded metal arc welding, stick welding, MIG welding, TIG welding. And TIG was my bread and butter because I was doing a lot of TIG welding and stuff. But then I took metallurgy classes, and still to this day, I don't consider myself an incredible welder. You know, some may say, but I mean, there's so many people out there that do it every day, and the technology's come so far.
Yeah.
You know, in what the welders can do, and their pulse control, and you're not having to use a pedal anymore to do it. And,
You still have to have a really good understanding, though.
oh yeah, yeah. There's so many variables, and it's not just gluing it together like the chassis building I was saying. You know,
Yeah.
you know, if you clamp something in a jig and you just weld from one side to the other, it's going to pull that way. It's you're not going to balance it out.
Yeah.
But to go back on your comment about just like, if I can get this piece of equipment, I can do better. You know, people will see that. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, I saw, like, there's a new shrinker stretcher I want, right? And it's badass, and it takes a lot of the finish out. But if you were just to go get that shrinker stretcher, you lose so much in knowing when you use a cheap tool or a less expensive tool but still of professional quality, that you have to run it through a replenishing hammer. You know, you're squinching metal together, so you got to reshape that metal. It's got to go somewhere. It's going to poke itself up. You got to clean it. And I think a lot of people skip the basics. And
that's a big part of, you know, if you can get the basics down,
yeah,
and understand the mechanics of what you're doing.
yeah,
You know, you're mechanically moving that metal, and when you can understand how that works, because I mean, like, we don't have a power hammer here.
Mhm.
You know, we have one coming, but we don't have a power hammer, and my power hammer is not going to be like a Yoder, you know, and the Yoders are incredible, but for somebody who's never ran a power hammer, you put me on a Yoder machine, all I'm going to do is make a mess of whatever I'm working on. I need to understand, you know, a little bit more of
the way
moving
metal
that metal.
works.
You know,
Yeah, I mean,
for us, it's all by hand with a hammer for now.
look at metal under a microscope. If you look at metal under a microscope, it's like spaghetti. So what happens if you bend spaghetti one way? It's going to crack.
Yep.
You know, if you got to know how to work the metal, how to let the metal tell you. A shrinker stretcher is the best way. Stretch metal, and you'll see how thin it gets.
Yep.
Shrink metal, and you'll see how thick it gets, and then you got to make it thin again.
Yep.
So if you're working with like an 050 or an 062 and you start shrinking it, and you see how thick it gets, and you need to work that out again, you know, to make it work. And coach building is a dying art.
It is.
And I don't want to say dying. It's dying mainstream. You know, there's lowbrow of everything. You know, there's steampunk, and it's still got a huge following. There's Renaissance. It's still got a huge following, just like any type of music still has a huge following, but it's a limited circle of that following. And there's so many people that need to continue that torch and keep it going, because one day there won't be a following anymore.
Yep.
You know, and I go back to saying I love beating metal over a shop vac. I love beating metal and bending it over my knee, or looking around to see, oh my goodness, this corner, okay, this corner I can bend this metal on and get the shape out of it, or, you know, I can use an acetylene bottle or anything to get shapes out of it. And
We did a lot of that at the old shop. I mean, you saw, you know, I mean, there was an infinite amount of
yeah,
things to use around the yard at the old place. And,
yeah,
that was one of those situations. Anytime we were shaping something or building something, we needed to put some sort of a weird contour or anything like that, and we'd take a walk around the yard back there and see, you know, what's out here, old bottles, or, you know, any old equipment that, you know, got cut apart or something that was getting scrapped or anything like that, you know, and we could, like, okay, that'll work. We'll bend it over this. So we'll weld something to this piece of machinery or this chunk of I-beam and use this as a base for this. And
oh yeah,
we made a ton of equipment.
There's guys that do it the right way, and they make the tool that they need to get the job done, and it's not in a huge manner of lathe, Bridgeport, you know, and milling it down and making it. I mean, when I make a lot of my dies, you know, I don't even use Dykem. I just put marker on there, a scribe mark, and I grind and cut away and shape to what I need it to be.
Yep.
And that's going to be my die. That's going to be what I'm going to bend over, because you got to make sure you label it too. Because that's what's the fastest for me. And I'm going to use it repetitively because that's what works.
Yep.
It's cost effective. And the most expensive part of this whole thing is running a business. I mean, I've failed so many times, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore. And now I tell people I'm too small to fail and too dumb to give up.
Yeah.
And I won't let myself fail. You know, even if I do a small, limited amount of things, and I don't pigeonhole myself into one spot, I'm going to be able to keep trucking along. But the overhead is what can kill.
Yep.
Not only the overhead, but the lack of clientele. And, you know, Rolling Bones did it best. Doesn't matter how much money you have. Cowboys rode for the brand. They're not going to deviate from their brand. They're going to do it their way, and somewhere, someone in this world will want your product.
Yep.
And that's what ends up happening. And you're allowed to keep it in how you want to keep it, keep your artistic ability in there, and just go ahead and keep trucking along just at a smaller pace, and you got to supplement on it, you know, another way. My day job pays for my night job. So I just refuse to let my night job ever die, and one day I'll be back to it again, where it'll be a full-time thing. You know, I probably will stay a one-man shop, you know, just because I like it that way. There's nobody to argue with. The boss is an ass, but is, you know, it's
Hard guy to work for.
very hard guy to work for. Don't get caught on your phone around him. I swear, he'll go off. You know, he'll make you pick up a broom and start pushing. But I like it that way. You know, there's nobody to blame but myself, and there's nobody to rely on but myself. And that's how I learned a lot of the skills. Because back in the day, it was, one, hard to find people to do something you wanted. That's why I had such a hard time with the logo. I'm not an artist. I can't draw to save my soul. You know, I sculpt from what's in my head. And to find somebody that has that ability to, you know, put to paper what's in my head, you know, I just, I like doing the way that I want to do it. And I've painted, you know, I've shaped, I've machined, I've wired, and you learn all that through failure. You learn it, you know. There wasn't YouTube 20 years ago. There was old timers and everybody else. And then, heavens to Betsy, if you did something a cheap, generic way, you know, they would accuse you of whatever you were building of it being a rat rod.
Yeah.
You know, which is still a nasty word to this day. Anytime anybody sees, you know, an original car with a flathead in it, non-finished, which is the way that I prefer them, you know, it's a rat rod. But it's non-finished because, one, I don't know how I want to finish it. Two, I don't have the money to finish it. And three, we're not making it right, we're making it run.
Yeah.
You know, stop, go.
I get that kind of stuff, you know, and I mean, I got the fleet line from you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you dealt with it before too, and
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
but just the fact that the car doesn't have any paint on it, and
Oh,
it
no.
goes somewhere and people instantly call it a rat rod. And I've had to tell a couple people, I'm like, listen, I don't have like a kitchen faucet holding my mirror on the side, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm not using bits and pieces of like things I picked up out of a field to make this car go down the road. The car just doesn't have paint on it. That's it.
Look at the Rodder's Journal. The Rodder's Journal, the highlight of the Rodder's Journal was seeing cars in bare metal. Because you're not slathering Bondo on something and shaping it. You know, it's how it is. It is metal craft at its finest.
Yeah.
You know, and it's perfect. If we could clear coat them and have them last, not have to worry about rust or flash rust or anything, I mean, it'd be so cool to see hundreds of them like that.
Yep.
And it just, what I like with that was we'd go to a car cruise and have a piece of metal missing off the car, like flat out missing, and show back the next week with the metal welded in, and you couldn't even tell where it was.
Yeah.
And some people get it. Some people weren't there the week before.
Yeah.
Some people weren't there the next week. So forever in their mind, you're the guy running around with the holes in your car.
Yeah.
And forever in some people's mind, you're the guy that just is running around with a bare metal car for attention. But it's rolling
Me, I'm
hard.
still running around in bare metal because if I take the car apart to paint it,
It'll never go back together.
it'll never go back together. No, there's just no time.
That's the rule. Like, you don't take running cars apart. My satellite. My satellite, which was my dad's satellite, which was your stepdad Paul's satellite. When Dad retired, he wanted a project car. He had a 58 Chevy Biscayne, which was a badass car. So badass. Me and all my brothers have pictures of it on a wall. And it was the only time it was parked in a driveway at my grandmother's house. They were out of town, but nonetheless, he just wanted another toy, so he bought that satellite. And when he got sick, he didn't want to deal with it anymore. And I ended up buying it and had some fun with it. But we would go through it every spring, and we started it up, and it dropped the lifter and bent the push rod. And I said, okay, well, we'll mess with it later. And later came around, and we discovered what was wrong with it. And then I got a parts list together. And then, I don't know, we had to go somewhere where it was dinner time or the grass needed to be cut. And then next thing you know, it went into the race trailer. And something else is in its spot now.
I'm hibernating ever since.
Yeah. I look at the heads all the time thinking, man, all I needed was like $200 in parts, and we'll put it back together. And the worst part is like, I hate that car.
Yeah.
I'm not a muscle car guy. I contemplate getting rid of that car all the time. But I mean, the license plate on it was Dad's. That's what it says. So, I mean, I don't know. It's my last memories of hot rodding or putzing around with them in a car. So I don't know if I could ever sell it. It doesn't cost anything.
No, I was going to say, it's not eating any hay. It's just sitting there. And you know what? The boys are going to have an interest in it at some point.
Yeah, as long as they don't wrap it around a tree.
Well,
you know.
Yeah. And if they do,
I don't know. You wrap an old car around a tree. Everybody's got that misconception. Oh, you take an old 50s or 60s car out, you're gonna survive against the Toyota Camry. No, you hit that car with a Toyota Camry, there's a chance that, that Toyota Camry is designed to crumble that other car.
Exactly. That car's not. It's just going to fold up. But I mean, given that, if that were to happen, and they're all right.
Yeah.
At that point, it is just a car, and
Oh,
we're
yeah.
out enjoying the car,
Yeah.
and you're enjoying the car, and things like that. Versus getting rid of it, and what's it going to do? It goes off to somebody else, and they either cut it up and build a race car out of it or something. And I mean, whatever. That's.
But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it.
Yeah.
Because it's such a hodgepodge. Paul never knew why it came to him like that, but it's got a 73 hood on it. It's got 72 taillights and bumper in it. And when I tried to sell it, all the Facebook warriors got on
Well,
their
yeah, then you run
keyboard.
into the purists,
Oh, yeah.
and Mopars have to
It's
be.
it's not. It doesn't have this, and it doesn't have this, and it doesn't have this, and it's this year. And I take pictures of the VIN and the title. My guys, I'm telling you, it's an RP23. This is what it is. It's a satellite Sebring. It's all numbers matching. It's nothing more than just. At one point, it was yellow like Daisy Dukes, and somebody turned it purple. And it's a rough body on it, but it's solid. It's a solid body. It's just got a mixture of stuff on it. So I used to tell people, screw it. I'm going to cut them wheel wells, fit some slicks underneath it, put a full cage in it, fiberglass front end, and go drag race it. Oh, you can't please them no matter what.
No, exactly. And it always was a cool car, though.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
But it's ridiculous.
It is.
I mean,
But it sounded good.
Yeah.
That motor just sounds, barely wants to idle. I mean, the thing
Well,
just sounds horrendous.
It's because it's got an 850 double pumper on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's cammed to hell. It's got a 3,000 stall in it. I mean, you got to put it in neutral at red lights or else it's going to flood itself out and die. And when you put it back in gear, you got to rev the hell out of it before you start rolling. Everybody's looking at you, and a lot of people don't realize that. They think you're just being obnoxious at a red light, you know.
Which most of the time, the times that I was in the car with Paul running around, it was just being obnoxious. And you could run that car around 30, 40, 50 miles an hour and plant your foot in it, and that car would just blow the tires off of it for as long as you wanted to stay in it, which was awesome. And I was laughing, smiling from ear to ear. He's over there chuckling like a little kid. And, you know, that's all that car was for. We take it out and burn the tires off of it and then park it.
Oh, we used to do that like with Feeney. It was me. First off, it's a 29 square cab. There's a bench sitting on the floor. It's tiny. It was me in the center, my brother Jason, who has the car now, in the passenger seat, and Feeney sitting in it. And we used to go to Ziggs. Ziggs used to be in Summit on Harlem there. I remember we were at 63rd, heading south on 63rd, and there was a red light there, and there was a guy in like a Jaguar or something next to it, revving his engine, just being an ass. So light turned green. Bob dumped the clutch. Let that thing eat, man. And right after 63rd Street heading south, you know, right when you pass A&J Western Bar, it turned right. We turned right. The ass end of that car came out to the left and just still grabbing gears. And he's sort of panicking because he's got other people's kids in his car, and we're laughing our asses off like, yeah, let's go back and do it again. You know? It's like moments like that stick with you. And then I remember him telling the story of people like, yeah, you know, I ruined these kids, and I know exactly what moment it was. It was when I decided to just stomp on the car and let it go.
See, but you hold on to that forever. And I've got memories of that with, you know, that 57 with my dad.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was a 283. What he did, it was a fuel injection cam, Muncie Rock Crusher 4-speed, had a set of dual quads on it. The car ran good for what it was, but it was still just a 283 small block.
Yeah.
And if I was in the car with him, or me and Kyle were in the car with him, I mean, I think in the 20-something years he had that car, he put 22 or 2,300 miles on it. That was it. And I think there was a portion he drove that car for 2 months to work every day because his truck was down for a little bit. So that probably added up a decent amount of that.
Yeah.
You know, a few hundred of that.
Was that in Oak Lawn, or was that in New Lenox?
That was Oak Lawn.
Okay.
Yeah, the Suburban needed a bunch of front end work or something at one time, and he was waiting on a bunch of parts for the truck, and still had to go to work every day, and the only other car he had was that, so he drove that car every day.
It's a Pullman?
No, I think he was working in Crestwood at the time.
Okay.
And
still not a long run.
No, it wasn't horrible, you know, but up and down Cicero. But it was one of those things where, like, he always had to make sure he put gas in the car the night before, because if he had to stop for gas on his way to work, like, you know, 15 people wanted to take pictures of it at the gas station and everything, you know, so, like...
Nowadays, they just look at it and go, oh, neat old car.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The cool thing with that car, I mean, I can remember cruising around in it, him just grabbing gears in the car. It wasn't fast, but it was fun. It sounded good. You guys were in that car plenty of times.
Yeah.
And, like, some of my best memories hanging out at Duke's on a Friday night. And you know, it was awesome. And when he sold the car, you know, we were upset to see the car go because it was like a piece of our childhood. But he was bored of it. You know,
he had
the
that car
was,
since he was like 13 years old.
Yeah, and it was needing a restoration again.
Yeah.
You know, the car was starting to show where everything was done, and it would have needed a complete resto, and they were only getting more and more expensive to do. And to do the car would have cost a ton of money, take a ton of time. Really didn't have a place to do it at the time, and so he figured it's time to pass the car on to somebody that's going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so he sold it, and I know it changed hands. And then he randomly got a phone call from somebody out of Las Vegas and found out that the car got sold one more time. And the guy called him and said that he daily drove that car in Las Vegas every day, and said it was he loved it.
It's a good place for the car to die.
Yep. And he said he called the person he bought the car from and wanted to get the information of the guy that they got it from, because he was told when he bought it that, you know, it was purchased from the guy that did the restoration on the car and everything, and the guy had a long history with it. So he was able to get my dad's information and call him and, tell them, listen, like, I think I have your old car. And, my dad said, he's like, I don't miss driving the car. He's like, it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't a fun car to drive. He's like, I miss the idea of the car. He's like, but that phone call was like, okay, cool. Like, somebody else is having fun with it. They're driving it every day. That guy probably put more miles on it in the short time he had it before he called my dad than he did in 20-some years.
Oh, yeah.
So people still appreciate that type of stuff. And hopefully that guy's still got the car, or somebody's got it. They're enjoying it. It's not sitting in a boneyard somewhere. But,
for as big as they are, it's hard to believe how small they are.
Yeah.
But everybody was smaller back then. I used to do a lot of fill-in work at my buddy's. My buddy had a turret lathe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, how you like running that lathe? I was like, man, it sucks. He's like, yeah, people were shorter back then, so the lathe wasn't as tall. And it's a true story.
Yeah.
So when we sit in a cat box, I told my wife, I was like, I can't believe kids were conceived in these cars. Like, how? It's so tiny. That's a 54. That's,
back then everybody was like 5'5".
Yeah, right.
I'm tall for then.
Yeah, there you go. You can be the center on the basketball team. But it's just, it's good to see him still running. It's good to hear that the car's still out there. And like I said, Vegas is a great place. I fantasize about getting a West Coast, Arizona, Vegas car sometime. I'm so tired of Midwest for us. You get a car and it looks solid, and next thing you know is you stomp on the floorboard of a 51 Chevy and your foot goes through it because you decided it's time to go.
Yeah, because it was just fiberglass and POR 15.
Well, no, that was Feeney's truck that I'm talking about.
Okay.
It was a California truck built in L.A. It was in Phoenix forever, and then it spent 20 years in Illinois, and that 20 years in Illinois accelerated its life immensely.
Yeah, it just deteriorated up here.
It's insane to think, even old iron like that, thick metal, how much just an environment changes the car's life.
Yeah.
So, and just because you get a West Coast car doesn't mean that it's been its whole life on the West Coast. It may have been like the 57 where it bounced around.
So career-wise, you've done a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But you've had a few stints professionally with hot rods and restorations and custom cars and things like that. And I know.
And bikes.
I know you're at the hot rod shop and the bike shop, and I know you did some work with some Broncos for a while, stuff like that. So, does any of that play into what you're doing now, or was that all? Was that all just another stepping stone to learning what you're doing now?
The hot rod shop was. So I was a mechanic in the service, got out, and through volunteer work ended up finding out about the bike shop. Ended up getting offered a weekend job by George. Come hang out on the weekends, help out, learn. And boy, did I. That probably lasted about 12 years. Some full-time, part-time, and then he sponsored me. I learned a hell of a lot in between those walls from them guys. They had been doing it forever. And I mean, 45 parts still in Cosmoline. Survey cars, flatheads, pan, knuckle shovel. Evo was a small block Chevy back then. Didn't really deal with it except for service, oil changes, maybe some fork work, some wiring or putting wheels on it. The bread and butter was building Linkarts, rebuilding flathead 45s, doing frame work, learning how they used to do the frames back then and fixing them. Jigs, making a lot of parts that aren't made anymore that had, jigs made. I learned a lot there. And then I was at a bike show at the old golf dome in Bridgeville, the dome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's golf or soccer, it was everything.
I think it's gone now.
It was a pain to get in and out because you had to go through that airlock. So it would take like 3 hours to get out of the show. I remember I overslept because I was working late, and I ended up riding the bike there, and it was in the wintertime. It was cold as shit. And went to the show, had no intentions of staying there. I stayed for maybe an hour and a half. I went home, and I overslept pickup time. I'm like, oh, shit. And maybe it was like an hour and a half late after leaving time, and everybody still wasn't out of there.
Jeez.
I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't miss anything because they're still letting vehicles out. They had to go through the one door, close it, open up the other door. Same thing. It had to be the airlock. Met Kevin there. He used to have an adult beverage night. It was on a Tuesday or Thursday. I don't remember if it was once a month or something like that. So I went to the shop, me and my buddy Keith, and started talking to him there. And he's like, hey, come back and, do a weld sample for me. Let's talk some more. And at that time, I was at a factory mill writing, so I still had a day job. And I was doing 4 on, I think it was like 4 on, 4 off, 3 on, 3 off. So on my off days, I went to the hot rod shop, worked there, and worked on some really cool cars. We were in magazines and did some bikes for them and stuff. And ended up switching jobs, so I didn't have the time to go up there anymore. And then the Bronco shop was very cool, but very cookie cutter. Everything was the same. It was a Bronco. It had one type of engine in it per package and a type of roll cage per package. So it would take me 3 days to bang out a roll cage. That's making the brackets, bending the bars, welding, TIG welding everything in, and doing the engine cover and battery cover. So it just got to be.
The creativity wasn't there.
Yeah.
You were just building off
You were
of
just
blueprints.
Muscle memory at that point.
Yeah.
They tell you what bar is going in it, you bang the bar out. And we were the first step. So when I got done banging the bar out, it came out of the fab shop, it'd roll forward to me, I'd put the bar in it, and then if they didn't have a chassis that needed some work done to it, or rear end set in it or something like that, or anything welded on it, you're floating around trying to help or find something to do.
Yeah.
So it was cool to be able to say I did it, but it's not something that I would want to keep doing because it's sort of restrictive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that there's anything that's in these. This was just something of me wanting to do it. It had been in the back of my mind for a long time. I've had the shop for years. I guess you'd call it illegally, unofficial. And then I filled the government paperwork out and became official and have a federal employee ID number and, go to an accountant and everything and make it 100% legitimate. But it's just something I wanted to do. And I think the style is sort of, if I had to say something that I wanted the shop to be known for, it would be that. That and bubble cars.
Yeah.
30s, late 30s and 40s, and then post-war for a couple years. And they still had shape to them, style and Art Deco design, Harley Earl design to it.
Cool.
Yeah. What about you? I mean, you've done everything. You've done everything from trucks. The only thing you haven't done is motorcycles. I mean, you paint them, but you haven't built one. I mean, you've done donks to F650s you can high-five Jesus out of, to, heck, what's in there now? LS swapping and airbagging. You'd airbag a dog cage if you could.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, when people ask me a lot of, what started all this, it's definitely
Speakers and audio systems, I think, is what started it.
Yeah.
Dash.
That was
iPads
kind of like
in the dash.
Yeah. And the dash modifications to make stuff like that fit and make it look like it needed to be there. Because I had a lot of friends that, did, they put radios in their car or whatever, and they do stereo systems with just wires hanging out and all sorts of stuff, And,
Was Tinley the first shop
um,
by the carpet store? By Meyer?
no, I was working for somebody for that one.
Okay.
My first go around was after high school, but I was about 19, probably going on 20, somewhere in that range.
That's when you used to have the logo on the back of the old Chevy truck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And rented a little place in New Lenox, and had room for, you could fit 2 cars in the building, and had an apartment upstairs and the showroom area and everything, and that was cool. The next door neighbor did a lot of really cool stuff too, and I had been starting to do more work out of my dad's garage, and it kind of got to the point where he really wasn't in a neighborhood where I could have stuff like lining the street, sitting in the driveway, stuff like that. So, even talking with him, I'm like, what do you think? Should I go for it? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, you saw me go through it, and he said, if you're going to go for it, he's like, go for it, because you're either going to have to keep growing and do it anyways at some point. He's like, you're going to outgrow being able to do it here. Yeah. And so I gave it a shot, and right idea, wrong time, more than anything,
Hey, that happens 100
You're at that
times.
age, and, you'd rather spend more time goofing off and partying and stuff like that than
and letting your friends bring their cars in.
And
I jumped your shit from day one about
there
that.
There was a lot of that.
I tell everybody, if you're starting a business, be prepared. The 2 people that are going to screw you over the most is friends and family.
Yep.
And it's not for anything malicious. It's just because those are the ones that are going to want your free labor or your free space.
Yep.
They'll pay $1,000 for an iPhone that they don't need because it takes better pictures, or they can play an app on it, or it's just the newest thing.
Yeah.
How many pairs of sneakers do people have? But when you tell them how much to do a job, they flip out. Because
But I'm family, or I'm
Yeah.
your friend, or
Yeah.
Yeah. So I dealt with a lot of that. But I was mostly doing car audio stuff out of there. The car audio was kind of the big thing for me out of the garage as well. And, stereo systems, wiring different stuff up and building different boxes to fit, this trunk space and things like that. That Monte Carlo I had, we did probably 8 different stereo setups in that thing. And, they just kept getting louder and louder. And towards the end, it got to the point where, like, I needed to do all the component speakers and everything in the car, but, the sub boxes and everything. It sounded like it wanted to blow the deck lid off the car, which was, I think I rattled the spoiler off the trunk a couple different times. Couldn't get the hardware to want to stay tight on that or anything. But then it grew into, like, the Silverado, that pickup. And, the cool thing was the flip-out head unit with the touchscreen and all that. So I went through a few of those, and then I wanted a doubled-in. But you can't fit a doubled-in in those dashboards in that era truck. So I cut the dash and molded everything and bodyworked everything and finished everything so that, we made a backing plate and everything so that radio went in that hole. It had a backing plate and it actually looked good instead of just, leaving the dash hacked apart with a radio hanging out of it. And, and then that was wired a lot more clean than the Monte Carlo. I learned a lot there, and we built some cool boxes in that truck. And I probably had it at your house when I had that 18-inch digital design in there, and that used to, with the windows up on that truck, the side vent glass would squeak, the air flow between the vent glass, the clamps wouldn't keep the windows shut, and it separated the factory glue holding the inner structure to the roof skin on that truck because of how hard it was just destroying the truck. But it sounded good. All the vocals and everything kept up with even that much. I think we made 162 or 163 decibels at the headrest with that truck. We metered it one night at my buddy's audio shop, and it was cool doing that on a budget, and more people wanted that. And so I opened my own thing. We started, doing some of that and some window tint work, and accessories and stuff like that, the occasional wheels and tires and some details and things like that. But that was a short-lived thing at that time.
You don't do it anymore.
And then went back to school, tried to get away from cars, and
Sucker.
I was going through school, playing with cars, and
Right.
driving past. I was working for a car audio shop. I got tired of working for that. Guy wanted me driving all over the place doing these jobs that, it was costing me money to go to these mobile. We were doing boats and stuff while they were in the water, and I don't know. I think he asked me to run back to the shop and grab something. He's like, it should only take you 40 minutes to get there and back. I'm like, dude, I'm in a pickup truck. I can't drive up Lakeshore Drive. So I think I left. I just never even showed back up for him and left him. I left him there at the marina. And,
I wonder if he's ever bringing it back. Man, he's been gone 47 minutes.
Now he's been gone 13 years. But
This guy's still sitting there waiting for his bike connector.
poor guy. But
It's been a cold winter.
in driving to that shop on my days off school, I used to pass another custom car shop, and the doors were usually closed.
Does it
But I
start
saw
with
the logo.
Does it start with an S?
No.
Okay.
And so I used to see it, and I saw the guy's truck driving around town all the time, and it was right down the street from my dad's house at the time, like literally 2 blocks away. So it was BMS.
Oh,
when I was
okay.
there.
Yeah.
And I pulled in over there, and I think the one day the doors were open, like the shop door was open, and there were a bunch of cars out back. And I remember pulling up, and it was cool, man. Like they had a little pit about the same age, same size as Jaeger at the time, and dog comes out barking at me and everything, and
Shush.
yeah. And I met Brian. He came out, and I told him, I said, I'm just seeing if you guys are looking for any help. And when you have a business like that, if you park anything outside, that's
Oh, you're going to draw attention.
Yeah.
I used to stop
So
it. I don't know. You remember Woody's?
yeah. Yep.
Man, I used to stop there all the time. I'd go past it, and I'd just pull in. And at first it was like, what do you want? And it was like, towards the end, it was like, oh, cool, man. I'm like, hey, let me show you this. Let me show you that. So,
And I mean, that's what brought me in there, was because the door was open
Yeah.
and there were cars outside.
oh, yeah.
And so, I think he was used to that, and the shop was air conditioned, and so the doors always stayed closed. And the one time, of course, that they're working with the doors open, here comes another idiot coming up the parking lot, to come and look at everything. So, we get to talking, told him what I did, told him I had, up to that point in my life, a whole lot of years of being around cars, and
20 years old, been doing it for 40 years.
yeah.
26 hours a day. There ain't no soft hands here.
So he kept my number. He said he would call, and he did. And he had a couple jobs that he wanted done. And so I did some repair work, and I just kind of never left. I didn't really give him the option. He hired me, and I was there for quite a while, up until he closed up for a short time. He did come back again, and then I had an injury at another job, and I was out for a little while, and I went back to work for him again. And it was cool, man. We did a lot of cool cars, a lot of dealership cars, which was fun. There were a lot of brand new cars off the showroom floor that we got to customize, and it was simple stuff though, paint matching, different wheels and tires, stuff like that, just dressing them up and making them a little bit more appealing than every other model, just like it on the showroom
Oh,
floor. So we had a lot of fun with that, man, and I learned a lot there, because I had a lot of freedom, to just kind of get creative with things. So we learned a lot of what to do and what not to do, and yeah, it was cool. But
And then you moved into the shop behind DA.
yeah, that was after the second round of being over at BMS,
Yeah.
and I was looking for something, and I found that through his son, through Dan's son, and he's like, yeah, my dad's got some space for rent,
And then it blew. Man, what a rough place. What a
Yeah,
rough
just-
place. You had to dodge potholes just to get in there that would swallow my dually.
oh yeah,
I mean, it
and we
was-
graded that lot a lot, but the trucks in and out of there would
Yeah.
just beat that place up, man. But it was cool. I mean, we grew a ton through
Oh, yeah.
there, and
Got
You
a
know,
lot
it
of
was-
work done.
Yeah, there was a lot that went through there, a lot of work that we did, and it was amazing for, it was a dusty parking lot. It was
Yeah,
an
what
old
it was.
FBI building.
Built paint booth.
Yep. Yeah, we had to do that. I mean, the village didn't allow. They would never approve a modular booth, and they wouldn't even approve body shops. That town hated body shops, and so we did what we could. We made the absolute best of what we had over there.
What year did you
We did a
move?
lot. Into there?
Yeah.
2017, February of 17.
Man, now you got to kick Colin out or start working in the street because you've outgrown this place. I remember moving.
Yes.
I remember moving from that place to here.
Yep.
And
Yeah, and that was
just
22. 20.
just
yeah, 22.
unloading everything in here, going, oh shit.
Yeah, we're filling it up quick, and this is double the space we had.
Yeah, and then the booth wasn't even here, and just like, where is everything gonna go?
Yep.
So now you're here. You've been here 3 years. You've left your stains on the floor.
Yep.
When somebody asks you, what's the grenade on your shirt with the chevrons mean, and you tell them it's my shop, and they say, oh yeah? And you say, yeah, I own Explosive Customs, and they say, what do you do? What do you answer?
I usually give them the short-winded version, and I just tell them that we work on custom cars. That's about it. Because if you tell them you restore cars, or you tell them you work on, if you're too short, tell them you work on cars. They go, oh, can you do my brakes? Or,
Yeah.
Oh, can you do this? No, we don't do that. And the people that know and understand, we get a little more into it, and we start explaining to them, and then I get the question of where do we want to go from here, because we are outgrowing the space that we're in.
And well, not only physical location, but creative direction. So you and your brother are both incredibly freaking talented painters. Christian is an incredibly talented painter. Are you guys a custom paint shop? Because you guys both do badass air ride. Are you an airbag shop?
It's
not
a little of everything.
I was going to say, it's not a full-fledged, it's not what I would think of when you go into a full-fledged custom shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's not rotisserie, frame-off restorations.
We get them here and there. We've done a few, but they're not.
But they're far and few between.
Yep.
And
there's no money in those.
Yeah,
to
what
be
people
honest.
don't realize is the time that is in one of those when you have a labor rate, even just $100 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing a frame-off restoration on a car. Between that and what people don't realize, paint. I mean, 10 grand is not a paint job. 10 grand, it's not the
It's
paint.
usually materials.
Yeah, that's
you're lucky.
that's PPG,
Yeah.
middle of the road.
Yeah.
That's not anything fancy that you're going to be doing something custom with. And
Yeah, you get into Glazerite or anything like that, and you're probably 15, 20 grand in materials to do a complete car.
and that's materials. That's not prepping the body.
No.
That's not working anything out of it. So
And we've networked with some guys now that they've seen the paint work that we've done, or they've seen the fab work that we've done, and we get to talking about time and hourly rate, and they do a little math in their head, and they're like, man, you don't charge enough, or they get to
you can't.
no, and that's it. We give a
You
lot
know?
of time away, no matter what.
There's-
Everybody ends up getting a ton of donated time because we still want it to be right when it leaves, and we're not going to cut a corner just because somebody things happen. People run out of money, things like that, and we try to get it to a stopping point at least too. If they need to take it home or they need to give up on it or anything, you still want to make sure that everything you've done gives them the absolute best bang for the buck.
Yeah, something that they can run with.
Yep.
Look at Clay. Clay's hot rod shop. He's got some really low prices, and I'd asked him, I was like, why are your prices so low? I'm just one guy that pays the bills.
Yep.
I like having customers.
Yep.
And I like being able to do this. And when you price yourself out of it, you're not going to have customers.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And even for our area, I mean, most of the people who will understand the time it takes to do what we do they're not local. I mean, we're not getting anybody within 15 miles of here that are doing complete cars.
Yeah.
It's a lot of travel. We get out of state work.
Yeah.
Northern Illinois, southern Illinois, things like that. I mean, it's
Well,
cars that they make a travel to come here to get done. And
local people want marble floors. Somebody comes in and sees the place. There's immaculately clean shops, and then there's shops that are like a house full of 10 kids.
Yeah.
It's never clean, but it's organized chaos. And, there's a lot of people that don't understand. Like, it's hard to keep it clean when you're sanding, primer all day, or you're sanding body filler all day, and it's going to be messy, and it's not a sealed shop. It's
and we don't have two separate buildings either for
Right.
the body shop and everything. So I mean, it is a tough thing to
you
try
got
to keep
you
it all
got to
clean. It's
wrap everything up and try and keep dust off of it. But then the other thing is that a lot of people think if you're a small shop that you're not capable of doing it because you don't have enough people to do it. Like, oh, there's only a handful of people here. They must be really small.
Yeah.
You know.
the more we grow, and not necessarily. I mean, don't get me wrong. We could use another couple sets of hands around here,
Oh, yeah.
but
do you have the space for it too? That's the
Not
thing
really.
is when you
That's the
start you start tripping over each other because
if we cleaned up a couple departments as far as physically moving bodies out of here, there's quite a few cars here that are real close to completion. By the end of summer, and we haven't taken any work for quite a while. We closed the book. It's been small jobs only. We paint for, a small Harley dealership. We paint for one motorcycle builder, and then there's a couple local shops that will send us paint work when they're in a pinch. The paint work is really the only outside stuff we seem to take. Everything else in house is strictly our jobs, and finishing some cars, completing some stuff. The goal is to lower production even more and just focus on even higher end work, higher quality. And I'm not so worried about saying, we build 10 cars a year out of here.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
care
I mean,
about that.
look at
I
big
want to do one or
builders.
two really, really high end cars
Yeah.
and a lot of small feeder work.
I mean, there's not a lot of shops that are cranking out 50 cars a year.
No.
It's a lot of it is space. People don't realize one guy could take up 3 or 4 bays.
Yep.
You run out of parts or you run out of money, you got to move to the next one.
Yep.
You got to work on what you have parts for, what you can do, or you're waiting for paint to age, you're waiting for primer to age and settle, and before you can start doing, moving on to the next step. You're not pushing that car from where it is. You're leaving it where it is. You're going to let it air out or gas out exactly where it is.
Yep.
And everything's staged for that. But if you're doing front end work, that car's not moving until the front end's done.
Yep.
You're doing rear end suspension work or bagging something. It's not moving until it's done because it literally can't move.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is, and you don't want to rush it.
No, and now, I mean, even for physical cleanliness on the cars, the assembly room, we got the doors that close, it separates everything from the dirty shop. So the fabrication shop is as far away from the body shop as possible. All the body work's all the way at one corner, and fabrication's all the way at the other corner, and there's some mechanical in between, and the fab sometimes trickles back to the body shop. Some of the little minor body stuff, kind of getting it ready for the body shop, trickles up to the front to the fab area. But we're pretty good at making sure that when something's done in fab, it's ready to go right to body, and so keeping that kind of the same process for everything. Every time we do something, is really streamlined some of that. But then really the biggest game changer on this building compared to the old place is having the assembly room.
Yeah.
And it's nice when people come in and they can see that we've got the glass doors, and it kind of keeps things separate, and there's really no big dangerous work going on in the assembly room. You're just kind of getting everything final put together and final detailed and cleaned up and assembled. So that room's nice to be able to show people something that's close to finished or finished. But then the remainder of the shop, is it's definitely good for it's good for making a mess.
Dirty work.
It's a weekly occurrence, making sure
Yeah.
we try to keep everything clean. And there's times when you can't keep up if you're overloaded with work, and so
It
then we
is
shut
what
down
it
for a
is.
whole day and just clean the place.
I mean, you just had the open house and it was beautiful, and then it's like you clean the house on a Sunday, by Wednesday it's dirty again, just because life happens,
Yep. And like you said, sometimes it's organized chaos. Most of the time it is. Everything's on a shelf. We know what's what, and when that stack of parts comes off and goes with that vehicle, it's, as those boxes get empty, I'm big now on making sure everything makes it to the dumpster. Those boxes, I'm tired of.
That's the big thing is you're not going to use it later because you didn't use the other ones later. You just ended up losing them somewhere in the pile of junk. So
I mean, how much did we get rid of when we moved here?
that's like I said, man, I got to go back and clean up because it is just trashed.
Yeah.
And looking for some. I lost my air gun. Snap-on, bright, fluorescent, yellow. I looked for 25 minutes for that air gun yesterday. I took it off of the fluorescent yellow hose and set it aside because I was hooking it up to the rivet gun. And I'm like, where the heck did it go? Well, some stuff rolled over and fell on it. And it's like, it's hard to sit there and go, okay, well, I'm not going to get anything productive today because I'm going to sit here and police the area up and clean everything. But sometimes you got to do it. I want to take it, a day and clean, and I want to change some stuff around because lately I've noticed the flow doesn't match the layout.
Mm-hmm. For what you're doing right now.
For what I'm doing, right now. And a big thing that I learned is if it's on wheels, it's never in the way.
Yep.
That was
That's one thing that we've picked up from you, that everything in that shop is pretty much on wheels.
And I picked that up from the bike shop. The bike shop had been there since '71, and it's still there today. And I mean, everything's on wheels to where it can move around. Yep. You can change flow based off of what you need.
Yep.
Put lockable wheels on there. All my tools, my shear, everything's on wheels. My brake, I can rotate anything that I want just based off of what I'm doing.
Yep.
The only thing that's not on wheels is the benches. And I was sitting there thinking, I really wish this bench wasn't here. It's a cool 1940s cabinet that I got. But man, it's serving no purpose. Like, it stores some stuff, and that's it. And I'm thinking about disassembling it, putting it, moving it, and putting a workable bench in that corner, shifting everything over. So
now we've talked the next generation, and your boys are taking an interest in and out. They get into some sports or they get into some school activities, things like that.
Yeah.
So obviously you're not going to tell them no, and you want them to do that. It's not going to be no. It's all cars. But they've had their interest in the cars.
Yeah.
The quarter midgets.
Yeah.
I sponsored the one car the 1 year. And,
I was organized. You want to talk about expensive? My goodness.
But he did well.
Oh, he did incredible, but you think you got a lawnmower engine, a pressure washer engine. You go get one from Harbor Freight, it's $250. You go get a Honda rebuild for your pressure washer, it's $400. You go get a Honda 120 set up for racing, it's $1,200 to $1,300.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
There were stackers and toters come to these races. But yeah, we did quarter midgets, and now we got the juniors. So
are they both going to run juniors now?
yeah, they both have juniors, but so Tanner's been into shooting sports the last 2 years. Yeah, that's pricey between shooting sports and gymnastics. The oldest two get the majority of time and money, which the youngest is getting into soccer now, and my youngest boy was into basketball, and he's not so much into it as he thought he was going to be. I mean, he still goes to camp, he still loves it. He's such a quiet, chill kid. Yeah. He wants to drag race so bad. So I think next year we're going to limit on the shooting. I mean, my kid shot 22 cases of ammo this year for shotguns. That's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we'll still be shooting at the Grand coming up at the end of July in Sparta. But I think after PRI, we got to go to PRI and get some suits get some more parts, walk around, see some things. I think we'll be coming out in the spring and focusing on junior dragsters for next year.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but
Just need some bodies painted.
Yeah, well, the two bodies that are on there, they're old Strickland cars. They're 99s. I mean, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's for what they're doing. It'll be fine. Look at guys with their front engine cars. I mean, there's cars that are running old body or old chassis, but I wouldn't I wouldn't put the time into making a body for those cars.
Yeah.
Just because you'll never recover financially what you get into it, and that's not the time, that's the material. You know, material has gone through the roof, like we were talking in the past. It's getting worse every day.
Yeah.
So I'm actually getting to a point where I'm slowing down on big stuff because the overhead, it's just, for a one-man shop like me, it's hard to keep up and justify.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of times that you don't pay yourself just because you want every dollar to go back into the shop.
Yep. We've had a lot of talks about that.
Yeah.
And that's something that I try to explain and prepare, you know, friends or anybody that comes up to me and they're talking about starting a company.
Yeah.
You know, and
be prepared to fail. I mean, and don't be afraid to fail. Don't sit there and drink beer and tell yourself that you're a failure. I mean, look at all the people in history, you know, Hershey and all them guys and Tucker. I mean, look at all of them that have just, it's the drive.
Mm-hmm.
Stay humble, hustle hard. My wife bought me a sign that sits in the shop. Stay humble, hustle hard.
Yep.
Be a nobody. I love being a nobody. I love that nobody knows what I can do and that I'm not a well-known name, because one, it keeps me grounded.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people in the industry that got famous and became assholes.
Yep.
Very big assholes. And some of them are very famous people. And I know a lot of people that were in the background that did a majority of the work, if not most of it. Nobody knew their name because they didn't front the money.
Yep.
They were just the hired labor. And it's their skills on it. And when those people leave, what they're known for, the abilities leave, no matter if everybody has a different fingerprint.
Yep.
The way you paint is different from the way your brother paints, which is different from the way I paint or Christian paint or anybody.
Yep.
Same way that we work metal or same way we weld, you know. So stay humble.
Yep. And that's a big thing.
little.
Like, you know, I can do everything we do here.
Mm-hmm.
And I started out doing everything that we do
Yeah,
here.
like we talked about.
But you can only do so much at once.
Yeah.
You can only handle so much at once. And overhead comes into play, and production comes into play, and you have to hire when you want to grow. And as
headspace. Headspace is a huge thing.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of like eating everything on your plate. You know, you start piling it on, you're not going to finish.
Yep.
It's like that scene in Cool Hand Luke. Everybody comes up and grabs a spoonful to help them finish that plate. But it's just not taking on too much.
Yep.
Everybody wants to be famous.
Yep. And that's when you get too big on something, or you reach any sort of fame on what you're doing, you have to make sure that you're still delivering on your quality stuff, because every company is only as good as the help they hire.
Yeah.
And
you got to keep delivering.
Yep.
But you don't deliver reality. You deliver a digital reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I was guilty of it. When you're building a job, you take pictures and you plan for it in the future. I'm going to release this on Tuesday. I'm going to release this on Thursday. And I remember there used to be certain times to release. There was metrics that came out that if you released on a Friday at 1:30, you were going to see more than if you were released on a Wednesday at 7 o'clock, because people are on their phone.
Yeah.
And you could see it. You know, you go on to Facebook business and it gives you, hell, it tells you the age of your fan base and what country you're in. I've got fans that are overseas. I don't know anybody. I don't even know what person that is.
Yeah.
Like, they've never commented, they've never liked, they just follow.
Yep.
But it's hitting that algorithm, it's getting in it, and it's like, it's a grind.
Yep.
I'm on Instagram. I don't even remember my Instagram password. It's a picture of me drag racing on the bike. I know it's L Black Sheep Studio, I think it is. I think that's what it is. I'm not sure. The Facebook is Black Sheep Studio LLC. It's got a picture of the seat, the last seat we did in front of the cat box with the metal art also for the Project Headspace. Before that, I mean, there may be some stuff, reviews on stuff, but I don't want to do it. It's a lot of work.
It is.
You know?
It is. And not falling into the algorithms too. It works good that, you know, if you get out there on social media, great, embrace it.
Yeah.
When somebody, you know, if you post something and it, you know, goes viral by your standards, whatever that means, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get millions of follows or whatever, but if it reaches a surprising amount of people for you, embrace it. Great.
Oh.
And if it doesn't, like, there's times we'll post something and we get a couple hundred people that'll react.
Oh yeah, I'm
Post on the shop page.
excited as all get out. Like 200 reactions. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. And then there's times we'll post something and it gets 5 or 6 interactions. And
I think my highest is like 900. I don't think I've broken 1,000 on anything.
yeah, and it's tough. And you know, you look at all these companies that have really good traction on social media.
Somebody farting into a jar.
Most of those people, though, they have somebody that does that full time for them.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, like, there used to be that Progressive commercial with Flo's sister, and she's playing on her phone, and she's like, what did she say? She was like a social media influencer or something like that. And that was way before, like, when it was starting to first become something, and now you can go to school. Part of my college program is social media. You know, it's hard to believe that you're going to school and a semester is social media marketing.
Yeah.
And you can get a degree in that.
Yep.
And it's a cutthroat business.
It is.
You hire somebody to be your social media manager, and, like, you expect them to do it.
Yep.
There's a lot of companies that I interact with where I try and tag them. Small businesses. You know, I finish every post with support small businesses and the arts, because the arts are dying. You know, it's one of the last things in school, art class. My kids go to art class for like 6 weeks, and that's it, 8 weeks. That's not enough time to learn it. You know, foreign languages in art, bands in art. And this was back in 99 when I was, you know, still in high school in the 90s. It's dying. You don't have what you used to have, you know, what they consider art and true art. And, you know, it's to get these people and to try and stay on the same page, and you got to let them know, like, hey, I've been tagging you, but you haven't been sharing it. Like, share it.
Yep.
That's all you got to do is acknowledge it, and it'll help me, but at the same time it helps you, because now we're being seen by 2, which is going to be seen by 3, and it's just branching out. It's everybody helping each other, but it's such a hard business aspect to do the digital side. And like, everybody goes, oh, you got to be on Instagram, you got to be on Instagram, you got to be on TikTok, you got to make these short videos and post them. And it's like, I don't know if the people that I'm interested in having do the work, I don't know if they really do it. You know, if that's
a lot of them don't, and the
Like-
ones that seem to get the most traction have somebody running it for them. You know, and like, even for this, trying to grow this show, I don't care if it ends up huge. It's not what I'm going for here. You know, for me, it's, I can look back and my kids can look back.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is something that, these are conversations I have with people all the time. And it's a way to document these conversations and get to secure them in time. And, you know, now your kids are going to be able to look back at this and see this conversation and learn about Dad's hot rod times.
Yeah, I got the
and the
rough
motorcycles.
I got the rough cut DVD from when I was at Bonneville and they did that show. And even though they made it look like an asshole, like, I still have it to show them, and I can try and explain to them. I mean, there's so many aspects. Like, I had the 05 Ram in the trailer, and I'm lifting it off the truck, and taking the tailgate off and set it on the tongue of the trailer. And they're explaining that I came to Bonneville with little more than a bike, a buddy, and a few wrenches. And you're walking in a trailer and there's the snap-on toolbox and all the motors, from the week sitting up there. And, they're like, deep down inside, Jerry knew the engine wasn't going to last. And I can remember sitting in the living room in Tinley, and Tina, she's like, "Did you really say that?" I'm like, "Hell no, I didn't say that." So.
And they made it sound like you just abandoned your wife and newborn.
Yeah, they said he left his wife and newborn child at home so he could chase his dreams. And there's Tanner's 1-year-old pictures in the trailer, like his first baby picture. I'm like, yeah, it's not you start putting 2 and 2 together, you're gonna realize that it's a. So I was pissed. I was like, man, you guys made me look like an ass. And I remember one of my buddies reaching out on Facebook who was working at West Coast Customs at the time. And he said, it's all drama.
Mm-hmm.
It's for the women. It's all drama to get people to watch. Well, I sent the producer, an email. I was like, hey, is that the final cut? And he's like, yeah, it's final cut. I was like, thanks for making me look like an asshole, man. And he had written a long, lengthy, that's not the direction we wanted it to go. You're the one that broke. Nobody else actually broke. There was one that broke and got fixed, and then there was a factory-backed BMW race bike, and they had no problems. They had a semi-truck trailer out there. And, when they were talking to us, the rider had said, oh, yeah, money can buy a record. Money can buy all kinds of records. And here I am. Like they said, I slept in the 8 hot dogs all week long, and it wasn't. I think I put when my review of the show came out, I was like, oh, and by the way, we ate at the buffet 3 times, during the week because we were able to bum enough money off of people and change. But I had 2 things framed in the office back in the day. One was a ticket on my motorcycle heading out of the city 94 on a Friday during rush hour, and I got a ticket for doing 65. And anybody knows that if you're doing 65 heading out of town, you're getting ran over, So I thought that was funny because it was a BS ticket. And then I had that email from the producer framed hanging on the wall just because I like to look at it and remember, hey, that's not the way the real story went.
Yep. And it's a good experience. I got to do 15 seconds on TV myself.
Yeah.
And that was, it was a whole week of.
But what you don't,
and all sorts of
you
stuff
don't
that
see
went
the
into that.
behind the scenes stuff.
No,
they never show the behind the scenes.
That. And even, I'm still friends with all those guys from that show to this day, and they all those guys worked their asses off behind the scenes.
And the funny thing is I had some friends that were on shows too, and it was the end of one of the shows, and the guy's like, what the funniest part about that was? There was nothing on the right side of that vehicle. It wouldn't run, and it sure as heck wouldn't drive. And some of them didn't even have rear ends in them. They had the wheels with the lug nuts siliconed into the wheels sitting there, and it was angled so you couldn't see that there was no rotor behind the back or no drum behind the back.
It's all about the magic of the camera.
Oh yeah.
But and then looking at the same kind of thing, man, final cut when you see the episode air, and you're like, I wasn't going into it hoping you have to be the headline of this thing, but going into it wondering how much of what I did made the cut.
Yeah.
And it wasn't much, but it was cool to see. And then when it's all said and done, you're thinking back to okay, well, I was working on this, these guys were working on that, and they were doing this and they were doing that. It's there was so much time that went into what they did up front on the suspension.
And it was 10 minutes.
And that never made anything,
Yeah.
And you've only got a 1-hour slot.
Yep.
And there's commercials and all that other stuff.
44 minutes.
So to get to see that final deal, but for me, I gained a client out of that, and we did work behind the scenes for the show for the remaining seasons of the show. And so to me, that was awesome. And now, quite a few of the guys from the show
Are good friends
have their
with
own
you.
business on the side.
But you're still friends with some of them.
I'm friends with them.
Yeah.
They send me work. I send them work. We hang out.
One of them's been a mentor and helped you get in this building.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. So it's definitely it was a cool experience, much like yours.
Yeah.
And
I won't do it again.
No.
No.
I would.
I
would do
think
it again.
would. If
I
I
just
did,
wouldn't want it to get in the way of what we have going on.
if I did it again, I would do something different and want more control.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying like, hey, get my good side or get this.
Yeah.
I remember it was if we had music playing,
mm-hmm.
you're hot mic'd, right? So you got microphones on you, and they had to put the microphone underneath my race suit.
Mm-hmm.
So the name of the game is don't hold anybody up. So when you get up there, you'll warm up if you need to warm up on the side. But if there's a chance to go.
Yeah.
You don't know when a storm's coming or any of that stuff. So I would drive up in my suit, my leathers, with them down around my waist.
Well, yeah, because it's blazing hot out there.
Oh, yeah. And me and my buddy that went with were jamming out. I think Johnny Cash was on in the CD player. And the guy's like, man, that was so badass. Because I think it was one piece at a time, and we were talking about, like, the bike. I was making words up to it, and he's like, I wish we could have used that. I was like, well, why can't you? Copyright.
Yeah.
But I said, how did you know? He goes, oh, because I was videotaping you guys, and we can hear your microphone. I was like, oh, that's a good thing to know for the future.
Yeah.
But I would want to be able to include stuff like, smaller stuff like that, more intimate stuff instead of just the subject focus of it, and
Yeah, and like we've had a couple more opportunities since then, and never taken anybody up on that.
you gotta,
The last round was interesting because the guy came in and was checking some stuff out. And it was a producer through a friend. And that's how all that stuff works. It's just somebody, or it's right place, right time, and they just get to, they mention you get to talking, and he comes in and he's looking around, and I start asking questions like, so what's the premise of the show, and what's it going to be about, and what do you want to do, and blah blah blah, and he names some overly dramatized TV show.
yeah.
And he's
I mean,
like,
that's the thing. It's got to have drama.
And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. I'm sorry. I said I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Please don't waste any more of mine.
You lose control of the shop. You can't use your shop name.
Yeah.
You can't show some of your sponsors if they conflict with other sponsors.
Yeah.
Then you start making people upset because you're leaving them out, people that helped you.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and that's so if I had the opportunity to go and do something somewhere else, for a short stint on a show, I'd be all about it. But if something were to come in and actually videotape us doing what we do, it would have to be like our terms. I wouldn't want to get in the way.
YouTube.
This stuff already takes so long, and that's kind of where I'd rather do it. I'd rather just videotape a bunch of stuff, cut a video up myself, and put it on YouTube and let people see kind of what we got going on. And then it's more raw content. There's no drama. There's no script. Nothing like that. And
Dude,
we can just
Bello,
show the work.
Mike Bello Customs. In my opinion, he's probably got one of the best shows for building.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a small shop. I mean, people give him a look.
Yeah.
Give him a look, give him a thumbs up, give him a follow. They just do it themselves.
Yeah.
He's got a guy that follows around, and he explains the steps, the processes of it. And I mean, his videos are like an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
But he does a full build on a Lincoln Zephyr. He does a full build on a Chevy. He does a 36 Ford. He's doing everything.
Yep.
And he shows the great stuff. He shows the flaws.
Yep.
This is how we do it because this is how we do it. Some people may not do it like this. And I remember telling you about the sheet metal screws. Like, dude, I'd hate to be reaching up underneath that car and seeing that sheet metal screw.
Yep.
But that's the way he does it because it's easier to shoot that sheet metal screw in it is than to strip everything down, paint it, and put the everything in it or weld it on that may break.
Yeah.
And you don't know. So, but it's that that way. But then the grind that it takes to do it, editing, and the competition.
Yep.
The competition for people's attentions. You know, it's no different than flipping a channel on the television.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. And we're not out to make any of this seem like anything it's not.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even for this is low budget. I fund this myself.
Yep.
I bought some equipment. We set up a table, and we just want to have some conversations. I want the stuff to be as real as possible.
It's
as
just
raw
rambling.
as possible. It's it.
I mean, there's like no script. There's no nothing. It's just straight rambling. I think we've talked about 70 different things.
Yep. And
in
I like,
all different
we
manners.
kind of know, we got an idea what we want to talk about as we go into it and everything. But again, the biggest thing for this is it gives somebody the opportunity to tell their story and cement that in time.
Yeah.
And they'll forever have that. And they can go back and watch it as many times as they want. They can show their kids, or they can rewatch it, or they can show family members or friends and anything like that.
Or explain to the prosecutor what they meant in that comment.
Yeah, well, that too. You know, you never know. We'll see what letters show up in the mail. But, yeah, it's just an opportunity to get to have some awesome conversations with people and document them a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So, and, you know, that's it. And if it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere. We're going to keep doing this. And if it does go somewhere, it's going to stay just the way it is. You know, the equipment might get a little bit better, but I still want it to just be some great conversations with people.
Yeah.
And keep it as genuine as you possibly can. So.
Oh, yeah. There's so much to say. I mean, even if you sat down late. I mean, this was impromptu because I came up today and, you know, hey, we talked about doing a podcast and just time didn't allow. You know, was up here. It was a 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
Do a podcast, grab a bite to eat, and then go back home. There's things you want to say, and then, like, you completely forget about them. And there's things you're talking about, and I'm the worst with it, where I lose track of what I'm saying and then just ramble off in another direction.
Let's just run with it.
Yeah,
Yep.
but that's like how it's the most real, you know? It's just like on a cell phone or, you know, a telephone talking, like, oh, hey, by the way, did I tell you about this? Or, oh, did I tell you about this? You know?
Yep. No, that's it, man. Well, I appreciate you coming up.
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing these chairs.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely love them.
Thanks for being on my show.
I'll come back.
Yeah.
You know, let me know when you want
Next
me back.
time you're in town, come on
definitely.
back and
Hell yeah.
we'll catch up.
I'd love to get down there by you. We'll do some footage on some seats and some artwork.
Ruining
I think
some
that'd be
perfectly
awesome.
good flat metal.
That's it. We'll get you back up here again, and
Do some
we'll definitely
stuff.
do some stuff here. And,
Ruin some more good metal.
that's it. We're working on getting a couple of decent sized projects off the ground that you know we've had in the works for years.
Oh yeah. I've got some that I want to bring up and do, and you know, it's just juggling. Just trying to juggle free time. Trying to, you know, everything costs money.
Yep.
So, parts cost money. Time is money.
Yep.
And just trying to figure out when the best time for all the stars to align is. Normally, it's when it's cold.
Yeah, that works a lot better.
Yeah.
Kind of locked in the building all winter.
Can't do anything. You're staring at it. You're like, well, I might as well rip this Band-Aid off.
Yep.
And then it snowballs, and they're like, oh, crap.
Well, we'll work on this till the weather gets nice.
Yeah.
And let's pick back up next winter.
Yeah. Boy, I didn't expect it to be this rough.
Yep.
You know, it's just a little surface rust, but I guess, you know, I should know better because it's a support. And the next thing you know, you're cutting half of something apart and welding it back together.
Everything gets out of hand.
Oh,
There
yeah.
was way, way more work than anticipated, more time than anticipated, and
Well, nothing can be simple like changing light bulbs. You're Frenching in headlights, you know. You got to do the back because you don't want the back and the front. Then you might as well shave it.
Yep.
Then you're shaving it. You might as well slam it because everything looks good laying frame.
Yep.
Yeah. Then where does it go from there? Well, you might as well make it drive faster. Made it drive faster, and you make it stop better. You know. Then I might as well change the rear end because I want to cruise it a little better. And then
let's do the interior. It
Yep,
needs to be
that's
comfy.
where I
It's
was
gotta
going.
look
You knew
good
where to
too,
go,
so-
interior, because we're going to be sitting in this car cross country.
Yep.
So we might as well make the interior a lot nicer, and then you're waiting on the interior guy.
Yep.
And then, sorry, Marty. And then it's
Marty, the one-man party.
Marty, the one-man party. Then you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and then it's springtime, and you're sitting on the old seats, and you don't go anywhere because it's uncomfortable.
Or the painter. Those guys are.
Painters
The
are the
worst.
worst.
Yeah.
They're always got something quick in front of you.
Yep.
So, But yeah, it was nice being out here. It was nice finally catching up.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we've been talking about doing this long before I got all this going.
Boy, we rambled today.
That's all right.
It's like
Some people will listen, some people will click right through it.
like chasing a light.
Yep.
Some shiny keys. This subject, that subject.
Somebody hit me with the laser pointer. I was all over.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Well, next episode will be out in a few weeks. We try to keep these once a month or twice a month. Plenty of great conversations, plenty of stuff recorded, plenty more in the works. And
Go back and look at the old ones.
yep, check out some of our old ones. Keep watching for the new ones. They're all great conversations. They're all people that actually work for a living. They take pride in what they do. And we just want to keep letting those people tell their story, whether we got 4 people listening or 4 million people listening. We just want to grow this, and that's it. That's some great conversations, man. That's my only goal, just to sit here and talk with people.
Just ramble.
That's it. Let's ramble.
Did I tell you about that one time?
Oh, and by the way,
Yeah, we'll save that for part 2.
well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time. And Jerry, thanks again.
Yeah, don't forget, support small businesses and the arts.
Yep. Your social medias?
Black Sheep Studio, and I think L Black Sheep Studio, and then Team Black Sheep at yahoo.com.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, Jerry.
Yep.
We'll be back soon.
All right. Bye-bye.